Up, I believe you have a point of order.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. On a point of order, I'm going to seek unanimous consent of the committee for the following motion. That in relation to clause-by-clause consideration of Bill C-21, an act to amend certain acts and to make certain consequential amendments, firearms, Amendment G4, currently under consideration by the committee, be deemed withdrawn, and that Amendment G46, which has yet been moved, be deemed withdrawn from the package of amendments. Just to be clear, it is not our intention to move Amendment G46.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry, whose point of order is that?
Mr. Lloyd.
Mr. Lloyd, go ahead on your point of order.
Seeking guidance from yourself and the clerk, is it admissible to move a motion on a point of order? I don't believe that is allowed under our committee rules.
Strictly speaking, to move a bare motion on a point of order is not allowed. However, he's asking for unanimous consent. As you know, we can do many things with unanimous consent that we couldn't do otherwise. So it is up to the committee whether or not to give such consent, and I ask for that determination at this time. Is it the will of the committee to grant unanimous consent to the request by Mr. Mohammed? Do we have any?
Mr. McGregor would like to speak.
Mr. McGregor, please go ahead on this point of order.
Could Mr. Noormohamed just read it into the record one more time? Just the point of order. They blanked out the last part of it. I just want to make sure I'm getting it clearly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Happy to, and just to be clear, because Mr. Chiang would have done this, but his his headset is not working, so just wanted to make sure that's also stated. So it reads as follows, that in relation to clause-by-clause consideration of Bill C-21, an act to amend certain acts and to make certain consequential amendments, firearms, Amendment G4, currently under consideration by the committee, be deemed withdrawn, and that Amendment G46, which has not yet been moved, be deemed withdrawn from the package of amendments. It is not our intention, as I noted, to move Amendment G46.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Given
the, am I recognized?
Ms. Dancho,
Thank
go
you.
ahead on your point
Given
of order,
the
please.
significance of this amendment and the impact on, several million people in Canada, I would ask that it be provided in written form and translated and hard copy to all members of this committee immediately. And if that's agreed to, then we will provide unanimous consent from the Conservatives.
I believe that's possible. Mr. Clerk, if you, I wonder if you could arrange that.
It's possible. I just need to receive it.
Okay, and Ms. Dancho, do you require that distribution to occur before we can have the decision on unanimous consent?
Just a commitment that it will happen in the coming minutes.
Very well. I understand that is in progress, and Mr. Clerk will follow through as soon as time permits. So, is there? Do we have?
Mr. McGregor would like to speak.
So I'm sorry, Mr. McGregor, go ahead on this point of order.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I do have a copy, and I appreciate the clarification. Just so my understanding is G4 and G46. So I definitely am prepared to give my consent to that. As members of the committee know, I was going to also move a motion today to refer this matter to the Speaker to get a ruling on the admissibility procedurally of these amendments. But I appreciate the Liberals taking this step, and I will give my consent to this motion. Thank you.
Ms. Dancho would like to speak.
Thank you, Mr. McGregor. Ms. Dancho on a point of order, followed by Madame Michaud.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted to put on the record what we're talking about in case those watching and impacted by this are not entirely familiar what we're talking about. It's a bit of inside baseball when we say G4, G46. So just very in short order, G4 was the amendment brought forward by the Liberals that created a new a firearm that would have been a definition of a firearm that would have been prohibited, notably the semi-automatic rifles or shotguns with magazine capabilities of greater than 5 cartridges. It also, in essence, would codify the May 2020 OIC definition of prohibited firearms, notably 20 millimeter bore diameter and firearm capacity of 10,000 joules or greater. G46 notably would have codified every prohibited firearm that has been prohibited really over the last 30 years. As well, it included building on the May 2020 OIC, it included about 400 new models added to that list, along with a number of other firearms that did not fall under the May 2020 definition, but were added to the list nonetheless. And again, that was the amendment that was several hundred pages long, with several hundred models of firearms that were newly banned, in addition to those who have been banned in the last number of decades. So, just to be clear to those who may not have the inside baseball information of what G4 and G46 was. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Dancho. I'd like to further clarify your clarification that the G4 wasn't proposing to prohibit weapons that were capable, or firearms that were capable of taking larger magazine, but those that were designed originally to accept larger magazines. Anyway, I believe we have, I'm sorry, Madame Michaud, go ahead, please.
Merci, Monsieur. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thank my colleague, Mr. Noormohamed, for his motion. Those amendments were problematic. We've said it from the beginning. The Bloc Québécois is always in favor of prohibiting military-style assault weapons, but I think those amendments went beyond the scope of the bill. So we're always motivated to work in collaboration on this bill, which has to do with handguns, but I think it's always helpful to hear from additional witnesses so they can tell us how we could proceed for a prohibition of ghost weapons, for example, and perhaps military-style assault weapons, maybe outside of this bill because it goes beyond the scope. So I would indicate my collaboration, and I look forward to resuming the study of this bill after having heard from additional witnesses. Thank you.
Merci, Madame Michaud.
Thank you, Ms. Michaud.
Seeing no other interventions on this point of order, I would ask if I'm sorry, Madame
Ms. Dancho.
I just have a clarification of how the rest of the meeting is going to roll. So if the clerk and the chair can weigh in, and perhaps other members, if there are any other plans. And again, Conservatives just found out about this shortly, like minutes before the meeting was scheduled to start. So we're just processing the magnitude of this as well. So, Mr. Chair, I just have a comment or a question for clarification, and then just a follow-up comment. So if this is moved, this UC, if we all provide UC and the Liberal motion to withdraw G4 and G46 is passed, that would mean that G4 would be completely withdrawn and that G46, the long list, would not be moved at any point. So that's a correction. That's a clarification I need. And then following that, my understanding is we would return to the debate on the 1064 motion brought forward by, I think, Ms. Michaud originally to call for witness testimony. Last meeting, which was quite a long time ago, but we were debating, Conservatives wanted 20 meetings and travel. There was a lot of back and forth, and I believe we settled on a sub-amendment to my 20-meeting amendment from Mr. McGregor, who said 8 meetings and travel. So just so I'm clear, if this passes, it's withdrawn, G4 is withdrawn, G46 will not be moved. We resume debate on witness testimony of those very amendments that are going to be withdrawn. And then we will resume that debate of what those meetings would look like, if any. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, irrespective of whether this unanimous consent motion is carried, the meeting today is to carry on the debate that we suspended back in December. And we will continue where we left off. As mentioned earlier, the current state of affairs on the amendments as the motion as amended, as sub-amended, has been distributed to everyone. Once we finish this point of order, we will resume that debate. Mr. Mohammed will have the floor, followed by Madame Damoff, followed by Madame Michaud, followed by Mr. Badaway, if he were here, followed by yourself, Ms. Sancho. That's where things are. Where this debate goes at the end of the day is really up to the committee. So I will ask at this time if there's any dissent for on the.
Mr. Chair, I just had
consent.
mentioned that I wanted you to come back to me after you answer my question.
Okay, fair enough. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I went through the speaking order. So after this passes, it's to the Liberals on several. It's several Liberal speakers, and then I believe you said Christina, and then back to the Conservatives. Is that correct? That's correct. Okay.
Yes, we are continuing the speaking order as it was at the time we suspended the meeting.
Right, and we have about less than an hour to do that. Is that correct? Oh, you're not speaking.
Yeah, we have to. We will be impinging on question period if we don't break early, I believe.
So it's you.
If necessary, we will have to suspend again. But in any case, if we can get moving on this amendment or Mr. Noormohamed's unanimous consent motion, then we can proceed into the body of this debate as before. Is there any further intervention on Mr. Mohammed's point of order? Seeing none, I'll ask if the committee is in agreement with Mr. Mohammed's point of order. I'll ask, I believe, if there's any dissent, if there's anyone who does not give consent to Mr. Mohammed's unanimous consent request, please indicate. Seeing none, I believe that we have unanimous consent as on the motion as moved by unanimous consent motion as requested by Mr. Noormohamed.